Welcome to This Birding Life, a podcast for birdwatchers everywhere. I'm your host, Bill Thompson III. Special thanks to our generous sponsors, Birdwatchers Digest, the magazine for birders who love to read and readers who love to bird. Check us out at birdwatchersdigest.com. And thanks to our two generous sponsors, Carl Zeiss Sports Optics, makers of the award-winning Victory SF binocular. Check out Zeiss at facebook.com/ZeissBirding or Zeiss.com. And Rock Jumper Worldwide Birding Adventures, featuring more than 250 tours to 100 different destinations. RockJumperBirding.com. This is episode 56 of This Birding Life, Champions of the Flyway Part 1. People the world over know the story of the passenger pigeon, once perhaps the most numerous bird species on the planet, reduced to a single female in a zoo cage in one human generation. In 2014, we commemorated the death of Martha the passenger pigeon, the last one, who died in the Cincinnati Zoo in 1914. It had been 100 years since Martha died, and you'd think we humans might have learned our lesson about the wanton killing of vast numbers of birds. Sadly, it appears we have not. In countries all along the Mediterranean Black Sea Flyway, the migratory corridor that birds use to pass from the breeding grounds in Europe and Asia to wintering grounds in Africa, people shoot, trap, net, and attack birds. This illegal killing has been going on for centuries in places like Malta, Cyprus, and even France and Italy under the guise of being a tradition. An estimated 25 million birds are killed each year along the flyways for sport, for so-called culinary delicacies, and for the cage bird trade. Often the killing is done by the very rich for sport and to prove machismo, or by the very poor as a way to make a living, selling these migrant birds off to various markets. In 2014, birders in the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel, working in conjunction with BirdLife International, staged the inaugural Champions of the Flyway bird race to call attention to this illegal bird killing and to raise money to stop it. Israel, after all, is a bottleneck in the migratory funnel between Africa and Eurasia. In spring and fall, the migration spectacle in Israel is awe-inspiring as millions of birds, from tiny larks and warblers to giant storks, eagles, and cranes, pass through Israel, channeled by the vast deserts to the east and the Mediterranean Ocean on the west. Eilat, Israel, on the southern tip of the country, is one of the world's great migration hotspots in springs for this very reason. But the Champions of the Flyway isn't your everyday birding competition. Sure, it's competitive with teams from all over the world vying to win the top prize for the most species seen in 24 hours. But it also rewards teams for raising the most money for conservation and for sharing their bird sightings with the other teams. So it's got a kind of a built-in altruism that gives this event a bigger heart than any other. Add to this the fact that the monies raised each year go to a single BirdLife partner along the Flyway to help that organization in its fight against the illegal killing of birds, and you have what is perhaps the world's very first international bird conservation competition. I first met Jonathan Meyrav on a birding fam trip to the Roula Valley in northern Israel. He was the lead birding guide for our group of international journalists, and you can hear more about that trip in episode 37 of This Birding Life. At that time, Jonathan was already talking about his idea for a conservation-oriented bird race in Israel. And in 2014, I took a team over from the United States to compete in the very first Champions of the Flyway race. Our team, the Way Off Coursers, sponsored by Birdwatchers Digest, we finished in the middle of the pack, but we contributed more than $3,000 to the overall funds raised that year. And we had a blast. The birding was amazing. Meeting so many fellow birders from all over the world was incredible, and Jonathan's enthusiasm was infectious. I could not participate in the Champions race in 2015, but it went very well and raised a lot of money to support BirdLife Cyprus in their efforts to combat the bird massacre going on in their country. Late last fall, in November of 2015, Jonathan called me and told me the Champions of the Flyway needed a song to help extend its reach. He asked me if I'd write it, and I couldn't say no. From his simple question and the calling of a great conservation cause came some wonderful inspiration and resulted in the song River of Birds in the Sky, which I recorded with my band, the Rain Crows. We even did a video to accompany it using footage from prior Champions races and bird migration spectacle in Israel, along with partners from BirdLife International. The video was augmented by photos from birds being killed in these various countries along the Flyway, and, on a happier note, clips from team members from various Champions teams holding up signs showing their support for the event. More on the song and video later in this episode. Right now I want to share interviews with you with some of the key people involved in the Champions of the Flyway bird race. I want you to hear what we're doing, why we're doing it, and why it's so important that we birders support such conservation efforts. Birds are at risk of going extinct in our lifetime from being shot and trapped, and this has to stop. Once you hear this episode, I hope you'll consider visiting the Champions website to make a donation to the team of your choice. You can take pleasure in knowing that every penny you give goes to help stopping the illegal killing of birds. Simply search for Champions of the Flyway on the web and your browser will take you to the Champions website. My three interviewees for this episode are Jonathan Meyrav of the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel and the man with the vision behind the Champions of the Flyway concept. And then after Jonathan, we'll hear from Jim Lawrence, Global Marketing Manager of BirdLife International. Jim coordinates all of the fundraising and the distribution of the funds to the BirdLife partners along the Flyway. And finally, we'll hear from Roula, Trigou, and Fran Vargas of the Hellenic Ornithological Society in Greece. The HOS was selected as this year's recipient of the Champions funding support. So let's get started. Here's Jonathan Meyrav. Jonathan, you've been on This Birding Life before, so welcome back. I think we've talked before in Israel and the Hula Valley, and we've talked before in the UK at the Bird Fair. But now we're talking about something that's even more near and dear to your heart, an event that you, I guess, kind of came up with, the Champions of the Flyway. Tell our folks listening how what the Champions is and how it came about.
Well, it's a pleasure to join you once again, of course. Third time's a charm. It's actually a fourth time, but you know why this is a third time. But in general, Champions of the Flyway. Champions of the Flyway is a bird race that follows the basic concepts of a big day where teams of birders try to record as many species as possible in a designated area in 24 hours. Our idea to do a bird race in Israel came from the main idea behind it was to put emphasis on Eilat in southern Israel as the best place to witness migration and basically in the world in March, in my point of view. Very impressive waves of early spring migration. And the Eilat festival is well established. We were looking for a new gimmick, so to speak, to bring people back to Eilat. Very quickly, this race turned into a big conservation project as it was embraced by BirdLife International, specifically by the former chairman, Marco Lambertini, and Jim Lawrence, which is still, at the helm with us at the Champions of the Flyway team. And together with BirdLife, we came up with this structure of channeling the buzz of a birding competition towards raising awareness and funds for bird conservation.
Okay, and how many years has it been going?
2016 is going to be year 3. We started in 2014 working with BirdLife to raise funds together with Sabuco, which is the BirdLife partner in Georgia. The project focused on the Batumi area, the Batumi raptor count, and we raised funds for that. 2015, last year, Champions of the Flyway grew and became well established. More teams took place, and together with BirdLife Cyprus, we raised money against the illegal hunting and trapping going on the island of Cyprus. And now, year 3, we're teaming up with the Hellenic Ornithological Society, HOS, which are the BirdLife partner in Greece, to try and combat the atrocities going on in Greece in terms of illegal killing of birds.
Yeah, and I was just talking to Roula and Fran there from HOS, And they were saying that a lot of the problem they have there is people catching birds for the cage bird trade.
Exactly. There are two main issues going on basically all over the Flyway, the whole East Mediterranean region, but in Greece is a good example. One is just downright plain shooting of birds, doves, and other migrants, just people with guns running around and blowing them out of the sky for culture, for fun, basically shooting birds without any, difference between,
Just target practice, really.
yeah, just target practice and just for fun. Um, and yes, in Greece, there's a very developed cage bird market, especially around the finches, goldfinch, greenfinch, hawfinch. These are prized cage birds. So basically, people in Greece trap them illegally using a variety of techniques, and there's a very big $1 million, multi-million dollar black market of smuggling these birds um, downright into the biggest cities in Europe, in pet shops and so on.
And so, how many teams at this year's Champions race?
The Champions is divided into two separate legs, an international race where with teams of birders from all over the world. For that, we will have 16 to 17 teams this year, and an Israeli leg, which we're very proud about, that this year is going to have about 25 teams from all over Israel, children, retired army generals, professional birders. It's really taken off on a local level as well.
And are you noticing a difference? That it seems to me that not only is the focus on conservation efforts much higher and more intense, but it seems like it's really moved Israel and Eilat especially up the ranks of the hotspots on people's bucket lists, like must visit places. Are you noticing an uptick in tourism to Eilat as well for birders?
The answer is yes. I mean, this is work that the SPNI, the Israel Ornithological Center, my colleagues, Dan Alon especially, we've been working for the past 10 years, um, to promote birding in Eilat, to promote tourism to Eilat, to Israel. And we're not exactly the Swiss Alps in
Right.
terms of peace and quiet with our location in the world and everything going on. So it was challenging at times. But yeah, I must say that, I mean, these events and champions in the past few years certainly gave put Eilat on people's minds. That is the greatest benefit for us from the project. We raise tens of thousands of dollars, but this money does not stay in Israel.
Right.
This money migrates to where it's needed most. We get the benefit of the event happening in Eilat and the buzz all around it, and of course, the positive collateral of such events.
Now, you had a little bit of a brainstorm idea for this year's Champions race, and you called me and asked me to do something. Can you share where that idea came from and what
Yeah,
happened?
I mean, for us, I think both Bill, you and I, on a personal level, and many, many birders, I think that a lot of birders are really connected to music and very musical. And I thought that nothing can speak the message of champions of the flyway better than an anthem or a proper song. Um, and the minute the thought, popped into my head, let's put together a Champions of the Flyway song, then you, Bill, and your band jumped into my mind and said, "Hey, you know what? This is something which I think is right up their alley." And I was very happy when, that quick chat message, "Hey, how about we do something?" And I was very happy that you jumped on it quickly. And I think, we came up with quite an impressive song clip. And I mean, this is the place again to thank the Rain Crows, the whole team, the video production and editing team, everyone involved, in River of Birds in the Sky. It's truly a masterpiece and speaks loud. Um, Anyone that hears it can't get it out of their minds, and I think it really is a beautiful tune.
Well, it was an inspired thought, and I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't said, "Hey, how about doing a song?" And you said, "Do it in your typical country rock style, which let me off the hook from trying to do something like, classical or
Don't put words in my mouth. I never said country. I
no.
said something rock
Oh,
and Italian
alternative
within
rock,
the
yeah.
country.
Well, I tell you, it was such a joy to work on that song, and the neat thing is that being passionate about birds and conservation the way we are, and we share that, and knowing that I was doing something that was going to help you and your efforts and help this cause that's much greater than any one person. And it just came out, and that's the best kind of creativity. No matter what you're doing, when you're inspired, it just comes out. And the being able to work with my friends and family, and my daughter's boyfriend plays fiddle on it. I mean, it's just like it all came together beautifully. And you kind of wish that all the things you work on in your life would come together so beautifully, and then be received so well, and like it just snowballed. So I hope that the song lives on for a long time, and these things, these causes don't have a beginning and an end, right? So we got to keep.
Exactly. It's not a yearly theme. I think this is it speaks loud and clear for a problem that will take a long time to address, and is possibly the number one problem that birds face on this planet, everywhere. Again, people in the US, North America, the thought of songbirds being trapped and of birds, being blown out of the sky seems inferior now. But if you look back, 60, 70 years,
Oh yeah.
even in the US, this was common knowledge until people had their eyes open to what they are doing.
Right.
And the case is the same all over the world. I mean, 30 million birds are killed every year on the East Mediterranean Flyway. 30 million birds is a number which which just won't carry weight for many years. I mean, turtle dove, a species that was mentioned, in the song of King Solomon 4,000 years ago, is going to be extinct in our lifetime. It makes me feel sick to my stomach. We need to do something about it.
Right.
And the song, it carries the message from year to year. I mean, this is the tune of the project as far as I see it. So,
Well, thank you for thinking of me when you wanted to do that. It was an inspired moment on your part to think of doing a song, and then I was lucky enough to feel inspired and have good help to bring it around. And um, Jonathan, thank you too for your vast vision and your leadership for this event. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to come back and see you and see everybody. And I think this year is going to be a special year for a lot of reasons.
well, thanks for having me again. It's exciting. It's right around the corner. I just want to encourage again everyone hearing this. The Champions of the Flyway is a fantastic bird race with a lot of drama and friendly competitiveness and a lot of good messages and everything. But it's time to put some money where your mouths and hearts are, and help us battle, the illegal killing of birds. So Champions of the Flyway is a fundraiser. Go to the Champions website, choose your team. You can the song and the beautiful T-shirt with your talented wife Julie Zikifis's amazing artwork of the coursers. All this is in order to raise funds, towards this much-needed cause. So, join the project. Support it.
Everybody can be a champion no matter where they are.
Exactly.
All right, buddy. Listen, it's Friday night. You need to get some sleep. Go kiss the kids, and I will see you in about a month, okay?
All right. Looking forward to seeing you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, brother. Bye bye. Now we're welcoming back to This Birding Life our friend Jim Lawrence from BirdLife International. Jim, welcome once again to the show.
Hi, Bill. Pleasure to be back.
Tell everybody who you are and what you do, and give us an overview of the important work that BirdLife International does.
I'm Global Marketing Manager at BirdLife, and one of the things I try to do is explain what are sometimes complex issues to our audiences around the world and encourage them to help us tackle the problems that birds, all of nature, face today. Context here, I guess, is that migratory birds are facing one of the biggest problems that we're tackling. more than 40% of all migratory bird species in the world are in decline, and 90% of those species are inadequately protected across their ranges. Take another figure that's extraordinary to me, that we have a huge concern that amongst the world's most threatened birds, those considered globally threatened with extinction, only 3% of them have sufficient protection throughout their flyways. So there's some pretty heavy-duty work to be done here, and we're of course in a great position to do that with a partnership of 120 national partners that can all join hands and do joined-up conservation right the way through a migratory birds flyway.
Right, and flyways are really kind of what brought us to this point of having this conversation. BirdLife has done some important work along flyways, utilizing its network of partners and focusing on specific birds. I know we've talked before. You've been on our podcast before talking about the fundraising and conservation work that you do in conjunction with the British Birdwatching Fair. This Champions of the Flyway that we're talking about today is a little bit of a different animal. You want to give us a little bit of an overview of how that works with BirdLife?
Let's just talk about flyways for a second then. There's 8 major flyways that we recognize around the world, and one of the most important ones, in fact the second largest, is the Mediterranean Black Sea Flyway. That covers an area of 49 million square kilometers, and more than 500 million birds use it each spring and autumn, and that's where that binds both Israel, where we take the champions, where the Champions of the Flyway race takes place, and also Greece, where our project that we're focusing on this year takes place. The way that we look at the flyways is that with so many big issues and so many gaps in conservation around the world, our global flyways program is what we do this kind of work in. And it's interesting you should mention the British Birdwatching Fair, because actually they supported our work in this particular area of protecting illegal killing of birds last year. And we used the amazing platform that Bird Fair is to talk to the world about the issues that we were facing. We had a major study conducted. All of our work is based in science, and the solidity of that science is really important, because we need to do advocacy work with governments, and we need the facts to provide them to understand some of these issues that are taking place. Well, last year, with the help of one of our individual donors, actually, we were able to conduct a study. I say last year, it's been conducted over a couple of years, but we launched it at Bird Fair last year with a report called The Killing. And that report talked about the 25 million birds killed across the Mediterranean region each year, and provided us with a whole raft of information that helps us prioritize our work, leads to new conservation focus and the advocacy action. Thanks to organizations like Bird Fair, and we've got some pretty well-funded work going on in some of the priority places already, like Egypt and the Lebanon, but there are other places that need help, and Greece is one of those, which is why we're focusing Champions of the Flyway on that this year.
Mm-hmm. And I just was interviewing earlier today with 2 of your colleagues from BirdLife Partner in Greece, the Hellenic Ornithological Society, and they explained quite a bit about what's going on there and the quote unquote tradition of it. We had that same kind of killing happening in the United States, half a century or more ago, and it took popular uprising of public opinion to put it down. How do you think your BirdLife partners in these areas, Mediterranean countries, how do you think they're going to best go about changing these traditions, as you might say, from sport shooting and capturing these birds for eating and for pets? How do they go about that? What are some of the techniques that they use?
It's a very good question. There are a number of different techniques that are used depending on the particular issue in the country. Taking last year, for example, in Cyprus, where we were looking at the illegal killing of birds, mainly indiscriminate trapping in lime sticks and things like that. That in that country, the whole issue is driven by organized crime. It's totally illegal, but the restaurant trade for this this rather unpleasant dish they call ambelapoulia, which is basically pickled migrants or black caps and birds like that, small songbirds that are served up in a dish. Tackling that requires government advocacy to government, lobbying government to actually take account of the laws that are already in place and getting them to act on them, and also stopping and trying to prevent the illegal trapping that's going on by taking direct action. So that's an example there. I think the most overriding thing is that alongside that, what we try to do in pretty much every country is start to work with a younger generation, and we get into schools and we start to provide information that enables children from a very early age to understand the real issues that are going on there, because kids tend to see things in black and white, and they very quickly pick up the fact that they don't really like to see creatures being killed at the best of times. And they're fantastic advocates, and when they get enthused on a particular subject, they take that home and they talk to their parents, and that kind of hits home when the kid is saying to the parent, "You're really sure you should be doing this?" And this is so that's a very powerful way. And gradually over time, attitudes in societies are changed when new generations come through with what I'd like to think is a more enlightened point of view.
Right, we hope so. Now, talk a little bit about the Champions race coming up. You've got a team yourself, right?
Yes, our race is the official BirdLife Swarovski Optic races. We're very pleased to have our sponsor back in 2016 again, supporting us, and our team is myself, our head of communications, Aid Long, our head of European policy, Ariel Brunner, based in Brussels. He's a guy that doesn't let any of those Eurocrats sleep at night, and also we're delighted to have Dale Forbes, who is head of development and marketing at Swarovski, joining us again this year.
That's a formidable team there you've got, Jim.
Well, we've got a little bit of experience and a lot of enthusiasm, some questionable birding skills, but we're going to get out there and we're going to do what we do every year, and we're there to make sure that that we can carry this message around the world. That's an important thing for us.
And the money raised over the last two races, I believe it was it $20,000 or $30,000 per year?
Rather more than that. In the first year, we raised $60,000 through Champions, and I think about half of that went to support the guys in Georgia, Bird Conservation Georgia, then now called Sabuco, a really tight NGO out there that are doing some fantastic work preventing or protecting the bottleneck in the Batumi Gorge, where thousands of migrating raptors are going through each year, birds of prey that are just gunned down out of the sky. And that really helped them with that funding. We made a commitment to them with a certain amount of money. We actually took some of that money in the first year as well and provided that to BirdLife Malta to help them tackle the issues in Malta. So there was actually two outputs from 2014. 2015 last year was focusing on Cyprus, the project I was just talking about, where we've been helping them reach out, change attitudes in the community, raise awareness for the illegal killing that's going on, and to call government to account to actually get tougher with the enforcement of the laws that exist.
That's excellent, Jim. And this year, I think there's something like 15 teams or 16 teams coming from the international division, Jonathan said, and a whole bunch of teams within Israel. And I think it's so interesting that many people might not realize this. While we're running this bird race at one of the most amazing migration hotspots in the world, none of the conservation money really stays there. It's all going to these, devoted to these projects in a very focused way.
Absolutely. I take my hat off to Society for Protection of Nature in Israel, SPNI. Jonathan, who you've interviewed as well for this podcast. It's an incredible thing that they're doing. That's the wonder of BirdLife, where a partner helps other partners to raise funding. Often the partners that are in a good position to do it, or perhaps a partner who has better resourcing, is able to help a really cash-strapped partner do some work. And we all know the situation in Greece with the Greek economy is a real struggle, and that's put enormous pressures on HOS, the Hellenic Ornithological Society, who've got a great team of people, but their resources are really stretched right now.
Well, if people wanted to find out more about BirdLife and about champions and some of the good work you're doing with your partners all over the world, how could they do that?
Well, the best place to go to is www.birdlife.org. That's our website, and you can find out all about our work there. And Champions of the Flyway, of course, is going to be linked from this podcast, so you'll be able to see that website there and find out all the detail. And I think there's a pretty good explanation there of how we're going about that work.
Well, Jim, it's always a pleasure getting to talk to you, and I look forward to seeing you here in Eilat in about, I guess, 5 weeks or so. And I just want to tell you, I have so much respect for your energy and devotion and the fire in your belly for bird conservation. You've pulled off some major strokes of wonderful work, and I have a lot of admiration for that.
Bill, thanks very much for that. That's extremely generous. And in return, I just want to say thanks for everything that you've been doing. Some extraordinary initiatives, not least River of Birds in the Sky, the amazing song that you created for us this year, which has been our launch platform, and the video, and everything that else that you're doing behind the scenes. And of course, this podcast, which is taking the message out around the world, such an important thing for us. I'd just like to close with one thought, and that's that with such an emotive issue as the killing of birds, it's really important to provide a focus around action for people that feel moved to do something. Champions is a fantastic initiative for that. The publicity goes viral each year and reaches wide, and we always get a great response. I just hope that people who care about this horrible issue care enough to make a small donation. It only needs a little bit from everybody, and this is people taking action themselves to help end the problem by supporting one of the Champions of the Flyway's teams. And they can do that with a few pounds, a few dollars, or a few shekels, and we're grateful for anything.
That's right. Well, Jim, thanks so much for your time, and I'll let you go. You can get on with your evening there in Cambridge, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
I'm looking forward to meeting up in Eilat, Bill. It's going to be a blast as ever.
Okay, my friend. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
For our final interview for this episode of This Birding Life, we're going to go to Athens, Greece, and speak to Roula Trigou and Fran Vargas from the Hellenic Ornithological Society in Greece.
Hi, I'm Roula Trigou. I'm a member of the Conservation Department of HOS, and I am the Communication Coordinator. And I am a member of the HOS team who is racing in the Champions of the Flyway, which is called Pterodromi, meaning winged racers.
And hi, I'm Fran Vargas. I'm the Conservation Director here in HOST. And although I'm not part of the HOST team, I'm participating in the race with a different team called Inglorious Bustards.
Ah, yes, the Inglorious Bustards. Of course, our listeners may know the bustards are a family, old world family of really large birds, really amazing. It's a great play on words, Fran. Tell us, what is the HOS?
Actually, HOS is one of the oldest NGOs in Greece, and the only one that is its purpose and its target is only the wild birds and their habitats conservation. HOS is since 1982, And since that time, we are struggling and we are doing the best we can to protect birds and their habitats in Greece. And there are a lot of things to do.
Yeah, speaking of a lot of things to do, tell us, what is the situation now with migrating birds coming through Greece?
Well, I would like to mention that although for the Champions of the Flyway, we are concentrating two main problems. One of them is the spring shooting that is happening mainly in the Ionian Islands. This, as you probably know, in Europe we have the bird directive, and it protects the birds, especially during the spring migration where they are a little bit weaker. And also we are putting our efforts into the trapping. That is an activity that is illegal. And it's happening mainly in the Aegean Islands, and we are concentrating our efforts in the Cyclades areas particularly, which they tend to use. I hate to use the word traditional. However, this is how it's categorized. It's a traditional methods that they use two methods. I'm sure that Roula will tell you a little bit more about it in a minute. But the other main issue that we have, and the one that we have campaigned quite strongly as well, is poisoning. Although for the Champions of the Flyway, we are concentrating only in the spring shooting and in the trapping problems, which is a little bit intrinsic because it involves as well the trade of the species. Some of these species are not trapped specifically for feeding, but for cage birds, which is something that, again, is extremely common for different traditions, from good luck and just for the simple fact of liking the song that they produce when they're caged.
Fran, you mentioned that the tradition, quote unquote, of killing birds. How did this get started in Greece?
Well, in the Mediterranean, this is in the old times. This used to be a main source of proteins, especially if you take into consideration the islands where the communication was extremely difficult. However, in the times that we are, this doesn't have a real purpose, since the feeding aspect of or the provisions of proteins is not necessary any longer. I do understand that Greece is going through a very difficult financial situation, and this can incentivize the activities in order to provide more birds for trading. And also, in the case of the spring shooting, this is becoming as well a little bit of a problem because the good spots for shooting are higher at very high costs. We're talking about 3,000 euros, something like that.
Well, actually, Bill, there are two aspects because we have, this, let's say, economic crisis or no matter what, that helped towards that the illegal shooting is a little bit reduced because they don't have, the money for petrol and things like this. But on the other hand, it has made a worse situation about all the cage birds because people are, searching for some extra money. So there are some people who didn't do it anymore. They're just beginning of remembering their old habits. And the thing is that, as Fran said, unfortunately, it is considered a traditional activity in many areas of Greece. In Santorini, that it is a huge tourist destination. Is one of the famous of the whole world. On the beaches, that there are thousands of tourists up on top of them up in the mountain. Just up on the beach, you can see birds. You can see birds that are trapped, and you can see trees that are with lime sticks, etc. So it is a reality. In the Ionian Islands, that like Zakynthos, Kefalonia, and others, this is a very extensive phenomenon, like in Paxi. Many tourists go there, and the illegal shooting is considered as a traditional activities, and this is exactly what we are trying to change. through environmental education, through public awareness, and all the things that we are doing all these years.
Now, Roula and Fran, is the shooting that's being done mainly just target practice, just for sport? And what are the species being targeted primarily?
Well, it is a target. The target is the turtle dove.
In the Ionian Islands.
In the Ionian Islands, this is the main target. However, we have reports of other birds being shot.
So Roula and Fran, now as with HOS being the BirdLife partner who will receive the funding, what are you going to do with the funding that you get from this year's Champions Race, and how do you think you can change things in Greece?
First of all, you know that we are that Greece lies in a major bird migratory route, and it is connected with Israel because we are in the same migratory route. And that's why this race is so important for us, because Greece and Israel are united. We are sharing the same birds. We're in the same migratory route. So we are all racing towards to end this tradition. We don't consider it a tradition, but okay, for some, to tackle illegal killing. And what we are trying to do, and we will do, is first of all the money that will be raised will help us raise public awareness and expand our environmental education campaign, which is very important, because you know, a person which is very old is very difficult to change his mind, but through children it's the best way that you can change the old habits and things that were considered as traditions into something new, to respect the birds they have, and that they can use it to attract tourists and people in the country. And also we will develop a capacity building program that will provide training and support to personnel that can and guidance to support us and to tackle illegal killing, because there are a lot of people from Greece and all in many areas, not only the Ionian and Aegean Islands, that they are trying to support us and to put an end to the illegal killing.
So it's a necessary aspect in this. So one of them is the empowerment of the people, the local people, because actually, you know, although perhaps it can be perceived from outside that this is something that is socially acceptable, it's not. All the opposite. On the contrary, it's actually an activity that is, for many people, disliked. So we need to create an empowerment of the front line, let's say. And this empowerment is going to consist in a training for making sure that this is, first of all, recognized, secondly, recorded properly, and thirdly, and probably the most important, in how to report this. So it's efficiently reported. You know, if you don't know what you're looking at, if you don't know how to record it, it's very difficult to report this. And this is when you take into account, for example, in the islands, it's such a small amount of reinforcement, this information is necessary. So this is the section of training. And also, as Roula said quite well, the part of education is also an important and very important. We have been
vital.
We have been very successful in the past in doing this type of campaigns, specifically target to the illegal kill of birds, and we will follow this learning process. And I think that we also we are putting something a little bit, taking a little bit of the new technology in order to facilitate the reporting. And this is an application that we're going to create. This application is actually targeting the trade. So you have from one side in the spot, in the field, in the classrooms, and then we want to do as well in the cities. So the idea of this application is a system where you can actually see the species that are allowed by the law to being kept as a cage bird. And exactly what are the factors that you have to recognize in order to know that if this bird is being caught illegally, or if this bird is being caught illegally, how you have to report this. And the most interesting thing is that, you know, thanks to the mobile technology, you actually can record the places. And the idea is to provide a hotspot map.
Send photos, you know. The birds, the most usual cage birds are, goldfinches, blackbirds, crested larks. There are lots of species, but let's say there are 10, hot species that they are very.
I mean, it's. Sorry, I was saying that. I mean, I'm a keen bird watcher since I was 9 years old, jumping around in the Strait of Gibraltar in southern Spain. And I feed birds all the time in my balcony in Athens. But the reality is that the production of food, especially live food, is opening new target species. Now you can have insective species in a cage. So sometimes we found, from woodpeckers.
As cage birds, yes, of course, you can find almost anything.
Oh, that's incredible, and an incredible shame too. So, Roula and Fran, what can people do to help you in your efforts to promote more bird conservation ethos in Greece? How can they help the HOS do its good work?
First of all, we are asking to support us, to donate for us, to support the BirdLife Greece team, and that's the first step. And then to follow us in Facebook, Twitter, to follow us in the Champions of the Flyway website and Facebook page, etc. To show us their support, please. We really need it. It's the best way to help us keep going on. More than 2,000 kids and lots of local people are already part of our network. So we really need to keep going on. And please donate and help us.
Roula, you mentioned earlier when we were talking that Greece is in a financial lockdown situation. So people in Greece actually can't donate. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, yes, because we have the capital controls. So meaning that the people that have accounts in Greek banks, they are unable to donate. So we are counting on friends from abroad. We are counting on bird watchers who likes birding in Greece, who visit the country, who like Santorini and Folegatros and Zante and all the Aegean islands as it should be, and not as illegal killing hotspots. So please support us.
Bill, I would like to mention that if you would like to follow us or if you would like to find out more information about the Hellenic Ornithological Society, our website is ornithologiki.gr. Okay, this is the best way to find us. And in Facebook, our page is...
just type BirdLife Greece or Ornithologiki and you will find us. And the Greek team who is racing is, as I told you, Pterodromi.
Yeah, Roula, I'm glad you brought up the teams again. Please tell us who's on Team Pterodromi, and Fran, tell us who's on the Inglorious Bustards.
My team members is Nikos Probonas, who is a member of the Hellenic Rarities Committee, is Panagiotis Latsoudis and Kostas Papakostadinu. They are all very strong bird watchers and members of the HOS since ever. They are, of course, going for the first position, like Fran is doing. Boys are very competitive. Although I'm a rare species, because, women bird watchers is a really rarity. But for me, it's just all the teams are perfect. We love them for what they're doing and for helping us. So everybody can be a Flyway champion, and let's the race begin.
Well, the Inglorious Bastards is I'm the captain. Yeah, Simon Tonking, Nicky Bloom, and Peter Alfrey. They are ex-colleagues and friends, and new friends.
Okay, Roula and Fran, please, in your native tongue, invite people to support your team and to get involved in Champions of the Flyway. Roula, you go first in Greek. And
in Greek.
Yes.
Okay. Σας προσκαλούμε να υπερασπιστείτε τον αγώνα Champions of the Flyway. Βοηθήστε μας να σταματήσουμε τη λαθροθυρία στην Ελλάδα. Όλοι μπορεί να γίνουν για να αγωνιστούν για τα απομεταναστευτικά πουλιά. Ελάτε μαζί μας.
I will make a break, but I'm not allowed to.
Say something small in Greek.
So I've seen something very small in Spanish. Gracias a todos los champions of the Flyway.
Ευχαριστούμε για την υποστήριξη. Thank you for your support.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ.
Donate, please.
Okay, Roula and Fran, thank you so much for talking to us here on This Birding Life. I look forward to seeing you in Eilat, and best wishes for everything you do with HOS.
Yes, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Bill.
And for your beautiful song and for everything.
Yes.
Well, that's almost it for another episode of This Birding Life. Special thanks to our host, Birdwatchers Digest, the magazine for birders who love to read and readers who love to bird. Check out our current issue at birdwatchersdigest-digital.com, or everything else we do, including events and products and all kinds of stuff, at birdwatchersdigest.com. Thanks too to our two fantastic sponsors, Rock Jumper Worldwide Birding Adventures. They take tours to more than 250 different destinations, and their customer satisfaction is out of this world. Learn more at rockjumperbirding.com. And thanks to Carl Zeiss Sports Optics for their fabulous and ongoing support. Carl Zeiss is also the co-sponsor with Birdwatchers Digest of the Way Off Coursers in this year's Champions of the Flyway Bird Race in Eilat, Israel on March 29. Thanks to Carl Zeiss and their fantastic optics. Zeiss, we make it visible. Check them out at zeiss.com or facebook.com/zeissbirding. I want to thank everybody out there for listening. Please, if you can, take a moment to visit the Champions of the Flyway website and make a donation to the team of your choice. I'm not saying to donate to the Way Off Coursers necessarily, but if you did and helped us reach our goal of raising $5,000, we love you forever. Until next time, thanks for listening. This is Bill Thompson III saying I'll see you out there with the birds, and I'm going to leave you now with the song we did for this year's Champions of the Flyway anthem, River of Birds in the Sky. Thanks, everybody. Laters. For 10,000 years and more, it's been flowing, this river of birds in the sky. Generations of people have watched it in awe, and it still brings a tear to my eye. Flying south in the fall, back north in the spring, these millions must move to survive. But perils and dangers are on every side. It's a wonder any make it alive. But there are some with traps and guns who wait along the way. Birds are passing, the guns are blasting. It's such a cry and shame. Drawn by the season's irresistible call, migrating from east and west. Some fly by day, others by night, but all run this gauntlet of death. Birds flying free, know no borders, you see. No one can claim them alone. This great migration over dozens of nations, let's help them safely get home. Flying so free, soaring high. A river of birds in the sky. We can help them, you and I. what can one person do? You can become a champion, and we're all